We are tracking a manhunt that is happening right now. Authorities are searching for the person who killed this mom and dad who are hiking with their two daughters, the 7 and 9-year-old girls surviving and then running to a visitor's center to call police in the middle of the day in a state park named Devil's Den.
I think I see you right there. I've got two bodies down here.
That is scanner traffic per KNWA-TV of when the authorities found the victims' bodies, what we know about the suspect at this hour. We're on the case presented by Law&Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. Oh, right now, police in Arkansas say they are chasing every possible lead in this story of two parents who were allegedly murdered in front of their children. Here's a picture of the couple. They were murdered while they were out on a family hike in Devil's Den State Park in northwest Arkansas, according to state police there. For perspective, this is about a 2-hour drive from Tulsa, Oklahoma. In northwest Arkansas, it's a beautiful place, a lot of industry there in places like Bentonville and Fayetteville. And this was a new home for the family of Kristen and Clinton Brink. And again, they were on this hike with their 7 and 9-year-old girls. They are okay, but the trauma they must have experienced is so difficult to comprehend. I'll get to that more in a moment. Here's what we know at this point about the Brink family. They moved to Arkansas recently, according to police. Now, police didn't say exactly where they moved from, but we know from online court records that there are addresses listed in Montana and South Dakota. Devil's Den State Park is in northwest Arkansas. It's about a half-hour south of Fayetteville. That's where the University of Arkansas is located. Now, you can see from these pictures, this is a really nice state park. It is also very rural and very remote. The area where the couple was attacked, according to police, was in part of the park where it is very rugged. The terrain is very thick, a lot of vegetation, and there is no cell phone service, according to police. Now, police say at 2:40 in the afternoon on Saturday, they were called to the park. Here's part of what officers said. This was heard on scanner traffic per KNWA.
I think I see you right there. I've got two bodies down here.
Now, state police have yet to officially say how this couple died. KARK is reporting that the two daughters ran to a visitor's center saying their parents had been stabbed. A 911 call was then made to police who responded. Remember, where all of this allegedly took place was a spot of the park where there is not a lot, if any, cell phone service. Now, again, those girls, they were not harmed physically, and they are now in the care of family members, just 7 and 9 years old, their parents now dead. Now, as far as the suspect goes, police have given a decent amount of details of what they were wearing and what they may have been driving. Police say the person who killed the Brinks is a white male in a long sleeve shirts with the sleeves rolled up. They say he had a medium build. He was wearing dark pants, a dark ball cap, and sunglasses. He also had a dark backpack and was wearing fingerless gloves. Now, as far as his vehicle, police say he was driving a black 4-door sedan. Police say it may be a Mazda. They also say that his license plate was covered by what appears to be electrical or duct tape. Right now, Arkansas State Police are urging anyone who might have images of the suspect if they were in the park to contact state police. And they also specifically said that anyone who might have an image of interest in this case, whether it be the suspect or that vehicle they believe he was driving, not to post it on social media. Police are also asking people who live in the area of the park and they might have trail cameras, GoPros, or surveillance videos to pass those along to state police as they continue to investigate. It is unclear what led up to what police say happened in Devil's Den Park and whether the Brinks were targeted by someone who would want them dead. And if that's the case, why would someone want them dead? Or was this a random attack? The authorities have yet to say. The family of Clinton and Kristen Brink released a statement to ABC News that reads, quote, "The family is asking for privacy during this very difficult time as they grieve and learn how to navigate this new reality. They ask that if anyone has any information at all that will help in the investigation, to please contact the proper authorities immediately. Clinton and Kristen died heroes protecting their little girls, and they deserve justice. They will forever live in all of our hearts." Here's the number that Arkansas State Police want people to call if they have information on the suspect: 479-751-6663. Before we get back to this episode of On the Case, which is one of the most watched shows on all of YouTube, I want to talk a little bit about our partners at Morgan & Morgan. They are America's largest injury law firm. They have more than 1,000 attorneys, and they win a lot. They've recovered more than $25 billion for more than 500,000 clients. In the past few months, a client in Florida received $12 million after the insurance company offered just $350,000. In Pennsylvania, a client was awarded $26 million. That was 40 times, 40, the insurer's $650,000 offer. Then another client in Pennsylvania received $29 million after being offered only $500,000. So even if you don't think your case is worth millions of dollars, why not fight for what you deserve? Morgan & Morgan makes it so easy to start a claim. You can do it with just 8 easy clicks on your phone. So if you've been injured and you need to start a claim, go to www.forthepeople.com/OTC. You can also scan the QR code on your screen or click the link below. Join us now to talk about this case is law enforcement instructor Sonny Slaughter. It is always great to have you on Law&Crime. This is I think of these two young girls, 7 and 9 years old, just an incredibly tragic story, losing their parents like this. At the time of this recording, this is a search that is ongoing. What stands out to you as far as the suspect's concerned and what we know about him according to police in Arkansas?
Chris, thank you for having me. It's always great to see you. Unfortunately, we're always talking about cases like this. So what I'm thinking that law enforcement is looking for someone who knows the area rather well, because they would know whether there were cameras or any other thing, even though it's out there in the terrain. Somebody that's been there before, somebody with a criminal history, because this seemed rather random, but then targeted because they were right place, right time for the suspect probably. It's just a horrific case. And these young girls I was thinking about, they're so young, but they will remember this. They will have specifics. And this is, they'll think about on their, what happened the last time they saw their parents, what was going on in that very moment. They'll have all of those memories. And I hope that through law enforcement and coordinated services with the prosecutor's office and all of the agencies, that the girls will get the long, very, very long-term help that they'll need. But right now, we got to figure out how to get this killer out of the way.
No, and I think about, from what we understand from local media, that it was a 911 call from a visitor's center that these two girls were able to make. Where they were located inside the park, according to police, there's zero cell service. This was very rugged terrain inside this state park. And I just think of the horror that these girls witnessed, and then they're just running to be able to make this 911 call. Unfortunately, they were able to get the authorities there. But as far as the suspect, it stood out to me too what police say he was wearing, which was, long sleeve hat, sunglasses, fingerless gloves as well, and then a backpack. And it just seemed like, on top of that, the getaway vehicle, if we want to call it that, this 4-door black sedan that they believe was a Mazda, the plates were covered with what they think was duct tape or some sort of electrical tape. And it just seems like this person was prepared to do this. What stands out to you?
Oh, yeah. I didn't even see all of that. So absolutely. This was a targeted kill. This was someone that was looking to go out there and do a heinous act. But it could not have been for money, because people wouldn't carry like large sums of money necessarily on them doing something like that. So you have to think with criminal behavior in the mind of this individual, the fingers out on the gloves. A lot of homeless people wear that. A lot of people that stay in the streets all the time, they kind of wear that. The license plate. So you're thinking this person has already been involved in criminal activity in some form or fashion and is trying to make a getaway, because covering the license plate, like nobody's going to see that. So so this person was well prepared and intent on doing harm. And I can't imagine those young girls running and hopefully knowing which way to run and still stay safe, which of course they did. but just running, knowing they were leaving their parents, and now that they will never see them again.
How I think sometimes we take it for granted how police can track down a single person in a large area. In this case, it seems like they have a pretty strong description of the suspect, like we just talked about, and the vehicle, but the plates are covered. Though that would be something if you were driving down a street, I would think you'd say, well, that's a little suspicious. So hopefully those kind of tips are coming in. But how does law enforcement actually conduct these cases to truly find a needle in a haystack?
Oh, that's a great question. But there, so you have specialized units who train for tracking and who train for things that might be outside of the normal city stuff. And you're looking at tactical folks, people that have a tactical background with weaponry, with hunting skills, and I mean hunting skills with area, terrain, not necessarily hunting with guns, but area, terrain, people that have previous background in the military who may have served. And what they do is they prepare a grid, often 5 miles out is always seems to be a number that you'll hear from where from where the incident happened, and so they can cover a large area. But even though there's no cell service in that particular area, along the way, cameras or and even though it's in a rubbish area, they have a lot of people who do bird watching and who study birds. They always have equipment or stuff out there in these areas. So if they're talking to, if law enforcement is talking to one another, do they have some tracking equipment? Do they have some kind of laser camera or something that was out there that could pick up? We're using drones a lot lately to go in and to hunt for individuals. But on the highway, so you're pulling out an all points bulletin for a particular car, a particular color, style, and everything. And then the signifier is that the license plates have been taped over in some form or fashion. So you've got all your state troopers on the highway. From one state to another, you've got anybody that's local PD, anybody that's out, even off duty, but still has a radio and can hear. So you've got all these eyes and ears and people out there looking for a particular car, and that's what they're going to set their minds on. And in the area, they're going to be, so you'll have your forensic technicians, you'll have, and because it's a dirt area, you'll have those with special skills who actually know how to gather the forensic around dirt, trees, and samples and what to look for. So you'll have specialized technicians out there for that. They'll come together. Anybody recognizable, if there's any cameras at all, checking into the park, if there's one of the guard shacks or something that may have caught someone, anybody in the area, they're going to be doing interviews. They're going to do a lot to get to the suspect, whether it's inside the bush or outside the bush.
Just think of this terrain too, and how difficult it would be even to search it. But the last time that this suspect was seen, it was leaving the park. According to CNN, was the first place I saw this because police have not officially said what the cause of death was, but per some of the information that came in on the 911 call, it was believed that it was a stabbing. And if that's a case, Sonny, I think of what evidence might have been left behind and what law enforcement can take from what sounds like an incredibly brutal murder that they're investigating now. But if that is the case, what are some of the pieces of forensic evidence that law enforcement could have right now as they continue this search?
One of the things I was thinking about when I saw the article and I was reading, and they did not say weaponry, so it automatically makes me think, so there's a knife involved, because it's usually when they delay saying it or don't say it, it's usually a knife involved, because they always say guns out loud or something else. So some of the things is, how could they know it was a knife if there was no knife left at the scene? The wounds, the type of wounds, how did the body perceive itself? With a knife, you're going to see a lot of cutting. And was it one that came up? And if it's a knife wound that goes up often, It's usually somebody, the way the knife wound goes and the precision of it usually can indicate whether somebody has a background in hunting uh, uh, and that type of thing with the use of knives and everything like that. So they're going to be looking for the blood trail. Which way did it go? Did it go back out? Because they say that it seems like somebody left the part. Is the person covered in blood? It depends on how close they got. And you figure with a knife, they're going to be up close. So the forensics are going to be really critical. Dirt out there, so you're going to be looking for shoe size and doing casting of uh, feet around the areas where the body is. Um, there's a lot of communication. Who might have seen somebody going in and out? Did somebody call and say, I was at the park and saw something? So then they'll do a lot of interviews like that. But the evidence is really going to be the condition of the body, what is left on the body, and in the area of the body.
And again, I mean, it's just so difficult. I think of this family, not just the young girls, but other members of their family. I mean, they had just moved to this part of Arkansas, which I've actually been to Northwest Arkansas. It's a really pretty, not saying that anybody has a belief that it isn't, but I mean, it's a very, very pretty part of the country. And to just get the phone call that their family must have received, it's just horrible to think about. This is probably too specific a question, but the fingerless gloves stands out to me because in some cases, and this just might be the perception on the outside, people who don't work with law enforcement, but you would wear gloves to try to conceal your fingerprints from being found anywhere. Fingerless gloves, your fingerprints are exposed. What do you make of that detail? And that the suspect, that is apparently what they were wearing when all this happened.
So there are, like I said, homeless populations, those that live on the street and move around the streets. Now, it seems like he has a car, but you also think about, depending on his age, whether sports might be related. If he's young in his 20s, no more than 30, then they often tend to, well, the street ones do, tend to cut the fingers out of the gloves. So I don't think it was he wasn't trying to hide anything. That was something that's a part of the normal routine, the normal dress and wear, not something I think specific to this crime.
And then I found it interesting where, I mean, there are a ton of rumors, as there are in these cases when the mystery is still developing and you go on social media, it's hard to know what to believe. And that's why I appreciate talking with you. And we always try on Law and Crime to be the spot that people can come to on the internet to get the facts. Law enforcement said for people who might have pictures of the suspect or what they believe are pictures of the suspect's vehicle, to not share those on social media. What is the strategy behind that, as they're trying to not just investigate a case, but also really try to control the narrative of what is actually fact at this point?
And that's a very good thing. Controlling the narrative in criminal cases is really important. And law enforcement always wants to be on the end of providing the information that is accurate, than getting the information and having to dispute all the biases and all the misinformation and disinformation, depending on what the issue is. So they also want to protect, to determine if it's a black Mazda, how many of those are out there? And you don't want people randomly calling in. See, if there's 100 people that are calling in and 98 of those are about nothing, they still have to go through all the processes to eliminate those. So we want to stay specific with any information and evidence, and never share evidence on social media. I know a lot of people think they're doing something good, but remember, these stories never go away. And if the information is not correct, then you open yourself up to risk, liability. And that is why law enforcement wants to control all of the things that are in their purview. Like, people want body cam footage for everything. I am not a proponent of that. And I have all the reasons in the world to say, yes, release it. But the problem is when you do things without context and without proper content, then you create a crisis. So controlling the information, like what Law&Crime what does and what you're doing right now, it is unbiased, informed from expertise and lived experience, questions that are not off the hinges, or as people would say, but really straightforward to focus on the nature, the investigative practices, the litigation practices of the cases that you bring out.
And this happened, or police were called between 2:30 and 3 o'clock on Saturday, and then they find the bodies of the Brinks. So that's really when this investigation began. We're now at this point past 48 hours. What's the timeline like where, um, as the pressure continues to build on law enforcement to track down the person sooner rather than later?
It's definitely sooner rather than later. You get past 48, you're in the 48 hours going forward. Then it becomes harder to get people to have good thoughts and memories of what they saw. You want people to have, people think there's a total recall, but then people only have an accurate recall based on what happened then at that moment and then what is happening around them now. If you have time to think about, oh, well, maybe I didn't see, that is the not right away questioning things. So law enforcement, it's pressure, but they also want to get the right information. And if he's in the car, he knows he's committed this murders, it's on the news, then he might not stick around. So now we have to think about what's going on, him going from one state to another state.
Yeah, and we'll see how this plays out. Just a terrible, terrible story. Again, I keep thinking about those young girls, and I know they're in the care of family and they're physically okay, but to your point, just the trauma of what they witnessed, it's just horrible. Sunny Slaughter, law enforcement instructor, thank you as always for joining us on Law and Crime. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you so much for having me.
Again, anyone with information is urged to contact Arkansas State Police. That will do it for On the Case, presented by Law and Crime. Subscribe to us on YouTube and Spotify. I'm Chris Stewart. We'll see you next time.